Even during an economic crisis here in Brazil, British companies feel the impact, but businessmen still see a prosperous future here in the country, even during this difficult period. I'm Luciene Miranda, and this is São Paulo Direct by Dukascopy TV in a partnership with La Presse. And I'll talk now to the British General Consul here in São Paulo, Joanna Crellin. How do you see this crisis here in Brazil?
So clearly Brazil is going through a difficult time at the moment. You can't deny that. But what's interesting is that the British companies that are major investors here in Brazil are staying. They're here for the long term. They see this difficulty. They're suffering with the economic crisis, but they see a bright future ahead and believe that there is good business to be made here in Brazil after these times are over.
What about the commercial affairs among the two countries?
So I think we're doing well between the two countries, but there is still much more that we can do together. I think it's great that we in the UK have been placing more emphasis on the relationships we have with Brazil and trying to kind of build up those commercial relationships. And I know on the other side, Brazil is now trying to do the same thing. And I think there's much more we can do together.
How improve these commercial affairs?
So there are many things that I think we can do. Part of it is about knowledge of each other's countries, understanding a little bit more about how we do business, what the opportunities are that we can offer each other. And of course there are things we can do in terms of the trade policy environment as well, thinking about trade treaties, double taxation agreements, maybe relaxing local content rules, which would make our joint collaboration a lot easier.
Are there too many difficulties to trade here in Brazil?
It's a complaint you hear a lot from companies wanting to enter the Brazilian market, that it seems very difficult, that there's a lot of bureaucracy, that the taxation system is tricky. What we say is, you know, there are ways of getting around that. There are ways of working with people who can help you to understand the tax system, help you to understand how to get things done. And actually there is really great business to be done here in Brazil, so people shouldn't be put off by the perceptions of those difficulties.
Both imports and exports decreased in the last few years, with a shy recovery only last year. What can you say about this?
So I think it's interesting. I mean, it's clearly the global economy is going through a sort of interesting time at the moment. In the UK, we're now seeing a strong recovery after kind of a few years of very weak growth in the UK. And that's being reflected in our currency, which is now very strong, which is great if you're in the UK and not great if you're an exporter. So that, I imagine, is having some effect in our numbers. And also, of course, Brazil is going through a difficult time, so I would expect exports from the UK to Brazil, and indeed imports from Brazil, to kind of reduce a little bit in that period too.
British investors can see good opportunities, especially next year with the Olympic Games.
Yeah, I think the Olympic Games is a huge opportunity for Brazil, as it was for London, not only in terms of the spotlight it brings to the country, but also in terms of the legacy. I mean, of course, it's great to have the link between London and Rio as well. We've already seen British businesses being successful in being part of the Rio 2016, and I think there's probably more that we can do in the run-up to next year and then afterwards to sort of share the legacy.
Can you tell the main products exchanged among the two countries?
So the products that tend to come out of Brazil tend to be more raw materials, gold, machinery, precious stones. And from the UK, we have a kind of large exports in the oil and gas sector, machinery as well, automotive parts, and bits of kind of the aeronautic industry as well. So kind of a range of sectors, actually. I think there's more that we can do actually across all of the sectors to increase the relationship between the two countries.
And how investors, British investors, see the moment here in Brazil, the politics and all this impact in the population?
I think it's clear to people outside looking at Brazil that it is a difficult moment. I think there is an understanding that although Brazil is living through difficult economic times, the economy will recover. It has to recover. It's a huge country, 200 million consumers, a vast amount of natural resources, and is an enormously important economy in the world, and will remain so. So the economy will recover. The political situation is difficult, and obviously is having an impact on the economics. So we hope that gets resolved in the sort of short to medium term too.
Thank you so much for joining us.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Luciene Miranda, to São Paulo Direct by Dukascopy TV.